And welcome everybody to Sports on Tap. My name is Ed Dick, alongside Rob Trotman, Josh Jeffy, and Sean Duffy. This is week 3 of our preseason high school football preview show. We are brought to you by G&G Fitness Equipment. Rafe, a new sponsor, former teammate of ours, Rafe Felton State Farm Insurance, RRT Productions, We Shoot, We Edit, You Win, and also GB Art. Make sure you go to gbart.com. Use our promo code ONTAP10 to get 10% off of your next purchase. And we've already gone through the Greater Cleveland Conference and the Southwestern Conference. Up next, the Suburban League, the biggest league that we have in our coverage area, is covered by my cohort, my compadre, my colleague, Sean Duffy. He's gonna need the chocolate milk coming up here soon, because not only is he hyped about getting the promos right later in the episode, he's got a lot to talk about with this conference. So the Suburban League is broken up into 2 divisions. It's the American Division, which is the small school division, and the National Division, which is considered the big school division. Tonight we have 2 special guests coming on our show. We have from Medina, Highland, Mike Gibbons. He's been a head coach at Highland for a little bit here. He's continued on the tradition of great Highland Hornets football. He is a former teammate of mine at Mount Union. I am a former teammate of his at Mount Union, because he ended up being an All-American while I was coaching at Brunswick. He is a beast, and he is a great dude. And then we also have Hudson head coach Jeff Gough is joining us later. Hudson is a perennial powerhouse in the National Division and also in Division II. They always seem to find themselves in the hunt for not only the conference championship, but also the regional championship in Division II, Region 6. So Sean has put together this fantastic PowerPoint, and I would be remiss if I didn't share it with the group here and everybody who's watching us. So the Suburban League, those are our teams. The American Division, made up of Aurora, Barberton, Copley, Cuyahoga Falls, Medina Highland Hornets, Revere, Talmadge, and Roosevelt. The National Division now is represented by Brecksville Broadview Heights, Hudson, Nordonia, North Royalton, Stowe, Twinsburg, and Wadsworth. Cuyahoga Falls was previously part of the American Division, of the National Division, up until recently. They just transferred over to the American Division, which probably works out better for them from a competition standpoint. Unfortunately, they haven't really realized that as far as wins are concerned. Let's take a quick look at the I'm going to share another screen now. Yeah, we're going to go nuts on this, guys.
It's getting fancy.
Yes, we are. Maybe. This thing will pop back up here. Let's see. Oh, boy.
Spoke too soon.
Yeah, you did speak too soon. But as far as last year, Barberton won the Suburban League National Division. They were a perfect 7-0 conference play. Highland was 6-1, followed by Aurora at 4-2, Talmadge at 4-3, Revere. That's probably why. Stop share, reshare. There is our standings for the Suburban League National and American Division. As you can see, Talmadge, Revere, Copley, Roosevelt, and Cuyahoga Falls in the American Division up top. The National Division was won by Stowe Munroe Falls, followed by Hudson, North Royalton, Nordonia, Wadsworth, Brecksville Broadview Heights, and Twinsburg. This is a great conference. And before Coach Gibbons joins us here real quick, Sean, you've been covering this league. You've been covering the American Division for a while. You just took over the National Division about 2 or 3 years ago. What a great conference this is for us to cover, and lots of great football.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think obviously it's our biggest footprint that we have from a coverage standpoint. I mean, we're covering a lot of teams, a lot of great schools, as you mentioned, Ed, perennial powerhouses in Stowe, in Hudson, in Wadsworth. On the national side, with the American Division, you have Aurora, you have Barberton, you have teams like Highland, which are really the top 3. But what I'm excited for, and we'll get to later in the show, is there's some dark horses in the American Division this year, and I think there's a potential for some parity in that division. A lot of graduation turnover for the American Division. We see it every year. year over year, one division is a little bit more competitive or has a little bit more talent than the other. But what's great about this particular conference is it's very similar to the Southwest Conference. A lot of these teams make very deep runs into their respective playoffs in their respective regions. We saw it last year with Highland. We saw it last year with Hudson. We saw it last year with Aurora. We see it, and we cover 2 or 3 divisions. So it's a fun conference to cover. The first 3 weeks, as Ed and I will attest to, we basically spend our entire time hoping that we can get all of the scores in our allotted time, because there's like 40 some odd games that we end up covering in those 3 weeks, because there's the crossover game, there's the non-conference game, and then obviously you throw in the GLC, which we'll hit next week. This is a big conference. It's one of our fun conference to cover, and I'm really excited for the 2022 season, especially in the American division, because I think it's going to be a pretty competitive division. Not saying the National won't be, but I think there's a lot more teams with players that are getting better and are making that, hoping or primed to take that next step, especially coming in juniors and senior years.
And there we go. Thank you, Sean. Without further ado, we have the head coach of the Highland Hornets, Mike Gibbons, joins us on the show. Coach Mike, fellow Mount Unioner. He was a defensive coordinator at Brunswick, went on to head coach at Beechwood, and now he's with Highland, and a very highly successful coach at that. Coach Gibbons, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
We'll run down the last year's season real quick. 11-2 overall, 6-1 in the Suburban League American Division play. They were the number 1 seed in Division II, Region 6. They defeated the number 16 seed Toledo Waite 57-0. They then took out number 8 seed White House Anthony Wayne 38-14. Then lost a tough one to a perennial powerhouse Toledo Central Catholic 23-20. They put up 38 points a game last year. They know how to score. They gave up 13. They know how to play defense. And they have the same schedule as last year as well. So lots of familiarity coming their way. Coach Gibbons, talk a little bit about the program, where you're looking, how the summer's been for you, and what you're looking for in the double sessions coming up here leading up to the first game.
Yeah, really proud of where our program's at right now. We had a great year last year at 11-2, but our kids are hungry to try to build on that and do even better this year. So we return quite a few players from last year, and then we have some new players coming up and stepping up. So yeah, we're excited about where we're at. We've kind of been grinding our way all off season in the weight room, and then now out on the practice field. Just had a good scrimmage against Avon Lake this past Saturday, and then we scrimmage Lake Catholic this upcoming Friday. So want to take it day in, day out, one day at a time. Try to get better every single day, but definitely like where our program's at all levels, and we're headed in the right direction.
Hey, Coach, thanks for joining us. Just talk a little bit more about the summer. I mean, we could see on social media and everything about Brown's training camp and all that, but not a lot of people know how the camps go for high school kids. And a program like yours, a tough Division II program, one of the tops in the area. Talk about what like a normal day would be like for you guys at camp.
Yeah, it's really nonstop. It is. If you want to be able to compete with the great programs in Division II and within our league, you really, you can't really take many days off. So yeah, we're working out throughout the whole summer. It's pretty much a grind that way. We have workouts, we have 7-on-7s, we have 10 camp days throughout the summer that we use, and we spend a lot of time on the field when we use those 10 days. We went to Mount Union for a mini camp, and then other than that, we have a lot of, we run a youth camp, a middle school camp, and like I said, we go to Mount, so that's 3 weeks right there. So there's not a whole lot of time. We have, I know personally my family went on vacation for 1 week, and that was really our summer break there. So it is what it is. We love what we do. And, but again, if you want to compete with the best, that's the work that you have to put in.
Coach, again, thank you for joining us. And this is really, we've talked to many coaches, and this is the second year of the expanded playoffs, which has really kind of jump-started or kind of fast-forwarded your off-season, or preseason, so to speak. have you seen a lot of changes that you've had to make from a coaching standpoint or even a conditioning standpoint with players because of the fact that you guys are starting a little bit earlier and they're not in that at school routine just yet? I mean, I'm not sure if Highland is even in school with week one. A lot of schools aren't. Does that require a little bit more planning on the coaches' end to kind of get them in that routine as best they can for especially for week one?
Yeah, I think it's definitely different. Like you mentioned, the preseason is a lot shorter. We're kind of what we did was the week of July 18th, we went that whole week and had 5 really good long practices, and then we took some time off the week right before the start of the season. So, we're on our second week technically of football here. But yeah, I think our kids, schematically, we have everything pretty much put in that we wanted to put in. I feel like we're in good shape. We're going to work on that throughout this week and into next week too. But yeah, it is a shorter preseason, no doubt about it. So I think it's a little bit of a challenge to get everything done in that 2-week window. And we do go back a little bit later. So that first week of the season, we're really not back in school. So, but we were used to it from last year because we didn't go back till really late last year. So our first 3 games last year, we weren't even in school. So the kids are used to it. We adjust and just keep moving forward.
Hey, Coach Rob here. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Appreciate it. And let's talk a little bit about your team. Lucas Stiles, he's a kid that was really big for you last year. I know he's coming back this year, and I'm sure he's going to play a leadership role and really look to bring everybody and all the other players up with him. Other than him, who are some of the other players we can look out for on offense and defense for you this year?
Yeah, we have a number of returning players. Lucas, obviously, he'll be a 3-year starter. He was all Ohio last year, tremendous player, both on offense and defense. So can't say enough good things about him. But also on the defensive side of the ball, you have, Logan Marquis, Andrew Tadalinsky, Danny Giannini, Zach Weibel, Mitchell Good, Matthew Haney, Creed Hill, another 3-year starter, all-district player, Savon Hollis, Matt Syriac, Chase Crutchley. And then offensively, we have, 2 really good quarterbacks we feel good about, Peyton Janikis and Andrew Lurtz. Our offensive line, Ben Fern, Logan Waddell, just to name a couple. Madden Huska, a great senior for us that's really put in a lot of hard work this offseason. At running back, like I said, we have Lucas Stiles, we have Noah Robinson, Evan Grant, Johnny Silico as a slot receiver, Tommy Turk on the outside, Sam Napier. So we have a lot of really good players that we feel really good about. We've had a lot of success last year, and even at the JV and freshman levels, I really had tremendous years. So, I feel like we have a lot of really good players and guys that are ready to step up and guys behind them that are fighting to get on the field.
We are talking with Highland Hornets head coach Mike Gibbons. Hey, Coach, when we talk about over the last several years, you've had 1 or 2. I would say I'm only saying this in the fact that they get a lot of press, but a couple of major studs, and then you have a lot of good complementary players with them. How important it has been to engage the youth program and then have that transfer all the way up through the middle school and the freshman levels for them to be ready to contribute to the varsity level?
Yeah, it's really important. It's a community like ours, it's a tight-knit community. There's a ton of support. It's a great school district to be a part of. But I was just at my son's youth practice, and he's 8 years old. So you go to the, youth field, and the fields are packed, the numbers are great. The parents are out there and they really get behind it. Again, having my son in the youth program, you really see it from a parent standpoint of, how much support and how much care people put behind this. And then getting to watch these kids. This is my 8th year at Highland. So this senior class was in 5th grade when I first got here. So, really getting a chance to watch these groups come up, grade by grade. I think it's a special community. You pretty much grow up in this community and you play for this school. It's not like we're getting transfers or, a lot of move-ins or things like that. So it's kids kind of grow up from a young age together and play together and really develop that camaraderie.
Coach, one of the things that we kind of talked about for the last couple shows is how much movement there's been within the conference and in all conferences. And when we talk about the Suburban League, particularly the American Division, it's been stable, and I think you can talk a little bit about both of those divisions, National and American. I mean, with the exception of Cuyahoga Falls coming from National to the American, it's a pretty stable conference. So you have an idea of who you're playing each year. Does that help in your preparation going forward? Does it help you to kind of understand seeing those teams over and over again, or is it something where you kind of, you want to play? Does it make more of a focus on your non-conference games being a lot different to just give more? Not the same, going against Aurora Barberton because you've seen it so much.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely, natural rivalries that are built into this league now that you see each other, year in and year out. And then there's teams that are stepping up, that are getting really good. Talk about a Talmadge school like that I think is going to be very, very tough this year. And there's other schools in our league that are getting better. But yeah, you have those years where Aurora's always going to be very tough. Barberton's always going to be really, really tough. So I think it's a strong conference. I have a tremendous amount of respect for all the coaches in our league. We tell our kids all the time, if you're not prepared, you're going to find out the hard way. So it's a well-coached league. The coaches do a great job. The players do a great job. So it's a fun league to be a part of. And, you get to see each other, and you kind of get to see from middle school all the way up to high school, you kind of watch these grades come up and compete against each other. So you kind of have an idea, hey, this school has a really good class at this grade level and so on. So you're not totally shocked when they become really good.
Well, I got to say one thing too. I cover a lot of the Suburban League games, and my favorite atmosphere is Highland on a Friday night because it's just, I don't know what it is about your stadium or the way it's set up. It just feels so loud when you're on the sidelines that I'm like yelling just to make sure that I can, get out of the way for them. But it's a great atmosphere, Coach. You do a great job there. And, it's a real fun program to follow every year because you guys are always competing. And I'm really excited, especially on the defensive side of the ball this year. I think you really got something going there where, last year you were really good, and I think this year you're going to be even better.
Yeah, I agree. Our school, our stadium, it's electric on Friday nights. We have passionate fans, passionate families. Like I said, when you grow up in a community like this, it means a lot more to our community. So when they come out and watch the Hornets play on Friday night, they're excited to cheer them on. They've watched these kids play since they were kindergarten, first grade. So when they're rooting for them, there's a back history to that. And then, this year hopefully will be a special year. These kids are I think a seasoned group, like you mentioned, on the defensive side of the ball. We have a number of kids that have been starting for 3 years on that side of the ball. So, it's going to be, hopefully fun, and we'll be able to put on a good show on Friday nights this year.
Coach, you said this is your 8th year now at Highland. So you're getting up there as a crafty veteran high school coach. So, and you've had a lot of time to develop the program, and you've had a lot of success so far. Have you had any time to just kind of sit down and think about where you guys have come as a program and think of some of the prouder moments that you've had?
Well, I had a tremendous amount of respect for, Tom Lombardo and the program that was built before I even got here. So, I'm just trying to carry on the tradition of what was laid down before I even got here, and do my part. And the program's bigger than, myself or any of our players or coaches. So, but yeah, when you put in a lot of work day in and day out, you're really just focused on, kind of what's the next step? So, we're 100% gearing up for Brea Mid Park week 1. And, other than that, I really don't put much thought into anything else. Just trying to get ready for that first week. And we're excited about that.
Well, with that being said, since this summer is a little bit different on, a shorter off season, have you had to prepare differently during your scrimmages? Have you had to do things a little differently because, week 1's coming up a lot sooner. So have you had to do anything different in a scrimmage as compared to the past couple of years or, a few years?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because, the preseason is shorter. You only have 2 scrimmages there. At the same time, you have a seasoned group back, so you want to make sure that you're taking care of your players too and making sure they're ready for week 1. So, we kind of limited a lot of their reps during that first scrimmage. We're kind of amping up their conditioning maybe a little bit more early on this week to make sure that we're in the best possible shape for that first week game, and then they'll play more this upcoming Friday in our upcoming scrimmage. So, we hope we're doing the best we can. I think usually we talk about, a typical season, it's going to take you 2 to 3 games to really be in good game shape anyway. You usually get like 1 or 2 of those really hot Friday night games where, cramping and things like that can become an issue. So we're going to do the best we can to take care of our bodies, be in great shape, and then understand that, hey, guys have to be ready to step up. Things happen, guys, go down, and if your number's called on, be ready to go and step out there and play hard.
We're talking with Highland Hornets head coach Mike Gibbons. Hey, Coach, you mentioned that first off, I've coached against you in that atmosphere, and it is electric. I can speak for that from a first person experience. With not a whole, as you said, not a whole lot of kids transfer in to the district. But like Brunswick, we're kind of on the outskirts from that of the big the big private schools like Ignatius, Eds, even Holy Name and Padua. Have you had any issue? Has your team had any issues retaining the kids that grew up in the Hinckley area from going to those private schools?
We've lost a couple, and we do the best we can to develop relationships with both, the players and the parents. We feel like we offer a great school district, number one. Academically, we're very high, one of the best in the state. And then from an athletic standpoint, we feel like we put a great product out there for people to want to stay around and play for a great community program that does everything the right way. So, yeah, it is a constant battle that way where, parents or players could look to go somewhere else, but we feel like at Highland, we have the best of what they're looking for, and why look anywhere else but just to stay here and play here.
And one more question that I have for you, Coach. With 2 years ago with the COVID year, obviously things went completely haywire, and you had to change a lot of things. Now that we're 2 years removed from that, are there any lessons, or maybe not lessons, but has there been anything that you carried over from having to do things differently in the COVID year that kind of made sense and you still do now?
Yeah, I think, you had to learn to be really flexible during that time. We were using Zoom meetings. We're doing Zoom meeting workouts where they'd have to put their screen on, and we'd tell them to do, so many push-ups or sprints or things like that. So, the creativity that way was insane. So I'm glad things are kind of getting back to normal. But yeah, like you mentioned, being able to just, set up Google Classrooms and different things with Huddle and ways we can reach kids when they're at home. We definitely learned from that. So yeah, again, I'm glad that, everything's going in the right direction that way, but yeah, definitely took some learning tips that way.
Certainly. Well, Coach, we want to thank you for coming on our show today. You guys have you have a real. We talked to Coach Hunick earlier in our previews. I know he's ramped up to play you guys, and I know you well enough to know you're going to be just as equally ramped up to take on the Titans coming up here on August 19th.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. Have a lot of respect for Coach Hunick and his program, and I know they do a great job, and he coaches those guys up really well. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun Friday night, and it's what high school football is all about.
That's right. All right. Well, everyone who's watching us, if you have anything going on, you live in and you want to check out a real good game, go to Phoenix Stadium and check out the Berea Mid-Part Titans hosting the Highland Hornets, led by head coach Mike Gibbons. Coach, thank you so much. It's good to see you again, man. And best of luck to you this season.
Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you guys for all you do for high school sports. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck this season.
Thank you.
That's Medina Highland head coach Mike Gibbons joining us on our show on a tremendous interview. Highland's been a very, very good program. As he mentioned, they're building off of Coach Lombardo's success. But Coach Gibbons has been very successful in his own right. He was very successful when he was at Beechwood, and that has certainly carried over to Highland.
Absolutely, and you look at that program year over year. For as long as we've been covering them, I don't believe they've had a down year or a losing season. I think they've been very consistent over the years. I look again, as I mentioned, and I flat out told Coach Gibbons, I said the impressive things to me right now is his defense. Every year, his defense, he rolls out a fantastic defense, and it's one of those smash mouth, punch you in the face early, and you have to kind of rebound from it, and before you know it, they're running all over you. And I really enjoy watching them play from a defensive standpoint because they're well coached and they have great fundamentals. Now, last year, they had a lot of young players that got some time, and those players are seasoned, as you mentioned, and they're going to be, I think, a lot better coming into this year. I think if you look at Highland, I think there's a question mark on offense with the quarterback situation, but again, you have a running back in Lucas Stiles, who was all Ohio last year, and he's a two-way player, and the guy is just so hard to bring down. There's several running backs I've seen, particularly a couple from Highland, that were just every time they got the ball, it was just like, man, how did he make that move? And Lucas Stiles is one of those. He was very, very impressive when I saw him live last year.
Yeah, I think Highland's always had some really solid running backs. Their O-line, they might not be the biggest offensive line, but they're really strong and fundamentally sound up front. But I remember almost 10 to 15 years ago in Highland, they've always had solid running backs that just know how to get the job done, and they're going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. I mean, it's always fun to watch the Suburban League. It's always very competitive. You never know on any given night what can happen, and just a lot of good teams in the National and American Division.
And I think, too, for Division II, Region 6, for their program to be the top seed in the region last year with, Avon and Avon Lake and all those teams in there, I think that's a pretty big deal, and we didn't really mention that, and Coach Gibbons didn't mention that because you could tell he's moving on to this year. But that for a program like Highland, that's a big deal, and that's really something that they can build on, and I think they will build on this year.
And I think we covered one of their playoff games, if I'm not mistaken, and I think one of their home playoff games was and as I mentioned, it's an electric atmosphere, and it's fun. It's fun to watch that team. No matter who they're playing or what the score is, there's a lot of electricity in that stadium, and it's a testament to Coach Gibbons and his staff and the ADs there at Highland.
All right, we're gonna move right along. We have the head coach of the Hudson Explorers, Jeff Gough, joining us tonight. Coach Gough, thank you very much for joining us on our show.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
Well, I'll run down the Hudson Explorers season last year real quick. They were 9-3 overall. They were 4-2 in national division play for the Suburban League. They were the number 4 seed in Division II, Region 5. I apologize to everyone out there earlier. I misspoke about the region they're in. They defeated the number 13 seed. They defeated Ashtabula Lakeside, and then lost a tough one to the number 5 seed Wash Jesuit. They scored 35 points a game. They also know how to score, and they gave up 22. They can also play defense. And they do have the same schedule as last year, so lots of familiarity. And Coach, thank you for joining us, and talk a little bit about the program, how the summer's been for you, and kind of how you're ramping up with doubles coming up here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we actually wrapped up doubles. We're into our after school practice, like in season practice schedule format, because we start school next Wednesday. So we had a phenomenal summer. Started in June. Felt like it was for forever, seeing the kids working out just about every morning. So the program, we've had a lot of success over the last, I'd say probably like 15 years or so. And it kind of started with Coach Tom Narducci. He really turned Hudson around and really got us on the map with our first playoff appearance. We actually celebrated that. It was 25-year anniversary of our 96 team that went on and beat St. Ed's, which was awesome for the program. And, from there, we had a run in 14, 15, 16 of Final Four appearances, 1 in Division I and 2 in Division II. And then, we really in the last 3 or 4 years kind of tried to change the identity of the team, and we try to push the pace on offense and really try to attack on defense. So we're pretty deep. We've got 125 kids, 9 through 12, which is awesome. The numbers are up. I know a lot of places are struggling to get kids to come out for football, but we have a ton of kids and just an awesome youth program in our Hudson Hawks, and they do a great job. And So it's really allowed us, because I think our depth is really what we lean on a lot to kind of try to have success late in games. And we're excited for this year because we had a lot of kids have to step into roles last year as juniors, and like our whole offensive line is back. Quarterback's back. We've got a couple linebackers that are back, and so it's shaping up to be a pretty good season. We're all healthy and we're really excited. We've got Uniontown Lake as a preview scrimmage on Thursday, their storied program, and then we open up with Solon.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I was about to begin the question. Coach, you mentioned, the returning starters. Obviously, you got your quarterback, Jagger Pillay, who played phenomenal last year, and he's going to take that step this year. What are some of the other players we need to be on the lookout for the Hudson Explorers this year?
So we really love our offensive line. Tommy Ricard is our anchor. He's got offers from Michigan State and Kentucky and Maryland, and is just a junior, but he's really strong tackle for us, and he'll play some center too. And then next to him is John Campa, huge body, 6'4", 290. And then the other guys that are back, Matt Clapper, who played right tackle for us, who also played some defensive end last year, he's back. And then Logan Hensel, who played some guard, he'll move over to center. Our center from last year is going to play defensive end, Lucas Afredo. But those guys I'm really excited for. Our running backs who are stepping in to take over for what Lal and Evans gave us last year are Ian Ludwig, who's an all-state lacrosse player, is really going to get his chance now to be running back along with senior Ronan Spawn. And then receiving core, that's probably our greenest group. We lost some pretty outstanding receivers last year, and we're really going to lean on Jack Jenkins, who outstanding athlete. He's committed to go play lacrosse at Michigan. So just a phenomenal athlete. Was All-American this year for lacrosse. And so we're going to lean on him. Nolan Yannick, who's a rising junior. And then we're really excited about Gio DePompe, who is our probably slot receiver, probably one of our best receivers. But then the other two guys we'll have out there is our two, because we're going to play with more of a tight end look this year. We've been traditionally 10 personnel, just one running back and 4 receivers. So we're really counting on junior Nolan Tanner and senior Sam Charavelli to really take the majority of those reps. So we're excited about those guys. And that's kind of the offense. Defensively, we have both defensive tackles back, Colin Boff and Michael Perry, who can be explosive at times. Lucas Afredo moved over from playing center, so he's now defensive end. And then Henry Casper is going to step up into the other defensive end roles. So we always talk about we're good as a program when guys are playing JV as juniors and really finding success down there, because that's the development we want. So when it's your senior year, it's really your turn to step in, and you should be like ready because you've played so many games. So we have a lot of those guys, and that's and then I think our biggest strength on defense is probably sticking with that front seven. Our linebackers, we are deep. Spawn, Toth, Charavelli will probably be the starting 3, and then you've got guys like Batcher, Gerke, who are coming in right behind them. So excited. It should be, we're excited for the core we have. It's still kind of young as far as varsity experience together, but really excited about the year ahead of us.
Hey, Coach, thanks for joining us here tonight. Really appreciate your time. I know it's a busy time for you and your team. Talk a little bit about, you mentioned a few players or a player that came from that's really good at lacrosse. Have you seen a lot of players from other sports interested in your program and playing football because of the success you've had? And we see it a lot with players that they like to play other sports other than, say football or baseball. They like to play multiple sports. Have you seen a turnover there where you've seen players that play lacrosse now want to play football, or wrestling want to play football?
I don't think I've seen kids that haven't played football and then they come out as much, because again, our Hawks feeder program, there's so many kids in that program that all of them kind of have that base, and then once they get to middle school, like we really push in our program, everybody should be playing a sport every season. I don't want guys in the weight room just pumping weights the whole off season. I need you to get out there and be around other leaders, and in baseball, have that experience of you're down a run and you got to have a crucial at bat. And lacrosse, our lacrosse program is one of the state championship contenders every year. So being a part of that team, like, it's great. It's tough at times in the summer because guys have so many people pulling them different directions. But I think if anything, we really learned in 2020 with the whole COVID thing. We'll get you caught up. Like, if you can't make it, you can't be here. That's all right. Like, we'll coach the kids we have here, and then we can't wait for you to get back, and we'll get you caught up. So it's more we really just trying to be flexible with those guys that have their AAU tournaments and baseball tournaments all weekend. Like, a lot of our stuff is structured around doing things we don't touch weekends in the summer. We let those guys go play their other sports. And but we do have a lot of we have our head wrestling coach Joe Caniglia is on our staff, which is great because we've got that marriage with wrestling, and certainly have basketball kids that are out. Gio and Jagger, those are basketball kids too, and then we have a strong tie with lacrosse program because we don't just have one varsity lacrosse team, we have two, so real deep there. But I love it. We tell the kids all the time, your time to play high school sports goes by like that. So why would you not? And at some point you're 19, 20, you're just sitting around wishing you could get on the cleats again. You're waiting counting down the days for beer league softball. So
or coaching your 8-year-old in his first tackle, and
exactly.
doing all that and remembering all the drills you did in high school. That was my job. That was what I did last week. And I was sweating just as much as the kids. Coach, one of the things we talked about, we had Coach Mike Gibbons from the American Division on. We talked about the stability in the Suburban League with all the changes going around other leagues. We haven't really seen a lot of movement. Obviously, Cuyahoga Cuyahoga Falls went over to the American Division, but we've seen pretty stable for the last couple of years for the Suburban League. Is that something that you point to in your team is saying, look, Wadsworth knows what Hudson does. There's not a lot of secret. You're not bringing out a lot of surprises. Is it more so focusing on what you guys do well as opposed to planning for the other teams? Since obviously you have enough film on Wadsworth and North Royalton and all those other teams that you normally play, but is it really focusing on fundamentals and what you guys do well?
Yeah, you hit it. That's the game. It typically always comes down to one play, right? One guy.
Right.
If we could have just made that block, or if we could have just, we all know each other, especially on our half of the division. Coach Fox has been there for a while now, and Coach Todd, obviously they've had so much success, and it really comes down to just, like, Coach Chuli's been there forever. It's nice having new, Coach Bell. I loved him at Twinsburg. He was there for forever. And then now with Coach Salters coming in, like, we got to play them when they were at Bedford. So there's some familiarity there. But Coach, even when there's turnover, like Potter goes to Stowe. So that's that. They're back there. That staff basically is back to what it was. And I'm sure they're going to find the same success. But then Coach Black comes back in, and it's like a guy that we've all coached against at Brecksville. So it just it is cool because the kids, like, we have rivalries just about every team in the division. We can pull up games and say, hey, this is what they're going to do. This is this is the down and I love doing that. Looking back not only on like our teams and the cultures that we've had and the legacies that some of those kids have left. But also looking at, like, hey, this is what Stowe wants to do. Like, and I'm sure Coach Boder will get on and say they're going to run power. Like, that's what they're going to do. Like, we know that. Like, so it is less. I'm not going to say less planning so much. It's really just trying to make sure all your kids are prepared. And then it's a bunch of schools with not a whole lot of open enrollment. So it is those are the guys that we know they're going to have next year,
right?
In the year after. I feel like some other leagues, like I know the federal league, I feel like there's a lot more like chess pieces moving around. You know, like kids are just with the open enrollment stuff. And I'm sure it's the same with the GCC and some of those schools up there. But yeah, it's cool too, because we've had some teams that have made some deep runs. You know, I know like last year's Nordonia team was, that's a damn good football team. And so every year it seems like these teams, special classes come through the different schools in our league, and it creates some pretty cool atmospheres, I think, on Fridays.
Hey, we're talking with head coach of the Hudson Explorers, Jeff Gough. Oh boy, it's storming here pretty good in Brunswick. And I love beer league softball. I'm very much looking forward to that tomorrow. So
if
Coach,
you have it,
if we have it, yeah, you're right. Coach, you mentioned. I'll build on what Sean said. I mean, your conference is fantastic. You have your competition is I would say is very, very tough, and your non-conference is no slouch either. Solon, Euclid, Warren G. Harding, and Brunswick. These are teams that are really that's Hudson has played in the past as part of different conferences. But with the expanded playoffs. Do you find that allows a team like Hudson, even though you guys have been very successful, I don't think you really needed the help. But has that allowed you to schedule maybe a little bit more aggressively, knowing that there's an extra 8 teams in the playoffs now than there was before?
Yeah, I think we haven't really come across the next wave of scheduling since that last year, but it is coming up. Like we'll need. Our floating open week is going to be week 10 next year. And like we love that we were able to get with Brunswick, great program, Coach Pinzone, what he's able to do there, and just the history with that program, because they had our number for a while. And then we were actually just watching today, me and our defensive coordinator, the 2014, we had a pretty special team. We were able to knock them off. And, so just pulling on getting programs like that where we know they're going to have 100 kids, 10 through 12. They're going to have an offensive line that is just absolutely massive. Like it does prep you for playoffs. So then when we run into a team with a giant O-line, we're like, hey, we've been there. We've had the game plan for it. And then I think moving forward, we do want to add some of those more marquee games. I've reached out to some major programs and talked about hey, can we potentially schedule something, like whether it's my buddy I know at St. Ignatius, that would be an awesome experience for our kids. I know they're playing teams from all over the country, but because we have more teams getting in the playoffs, and that's a huge goal for us. We will start to be a little bit more aggressive with that. But I think it's going to take a couple of years just as the schedules fall out. We love our schedule with Solon. It's a great program. It's right up the street. Our kids grow up playing against them in youth league and stuff like that. And, Euclid Stadium, we had a Hail Mary walk-off win against them last year. And I think that's one of the coolest stadiums in Ohio. That is a sweet stadium. So, having them, and then Warren Harding, I've never been to Warren Harding Stadium, and I can't wait to go. Coach Arnold, we've seen them twice in the playoffs, once with Lynn Bowden back in, I think, 16, and that was a pretty special team, and then in 2020. And playing great teams makes us a better staff and makes our kids better. So that's honestly, that's what we're trying to look for when we schedule.
Yeah, I'm sure you get, great experiences for the kids, and they bond together probably over it too. Going to, like you said, there's so many cool different stadiums out there and teams that have history. And, And so for you, it looks like you're still probably at school. It looks like in back I see the tapes there, and so when do you start getting little sleep now? Does it start right now when you're still at the office and you're looking at tapes?
This is I'm in our coach's office because we wrapped up practice at like 7:15. We practice later because most of our staff they're in private sector. So they work all day, and then we come together and we practice. But we had our doubles week last week, and we went 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And that was, it was cool. It was tough. It was hot, but we finished up like at 7 p.m. on Friday with pizza and Remember the Titans.
Oh, you can't beat that.
Yeah, we're in at 7 a.m. and we're getting on a bus and going to scrimmage Chardon, a back-to-back state champ. Like, I'm like, guys, this is the time of your life, man.
Yeah.
It's hot. Coaches are upset. Like, we want more. Like, but guys, this is really, really cool. So,
well, I was laughing because you mentioned you were watching the 2014 Brunswick game with your coach, and I'm wondering, what game is he going to watch tonight? It looks like you might, there's a lot of tapes there and back. Are you going to sit down and watch another good game from years past?
I have to tell when I tell my wife, like, I started watching, it's like an addiction where I can't stop. I'm like, wait, this play's coming up. Oh, I remember that. Oh my God. Look at this kid. Like, and it's like fine wine when you're watching these games, like where the video quality is not, but it's cool. So, but I try when I leave here, because my wife's a rock star. She's at home right now we have 4 little girls, 6, 4, 2, and 10 months. So life is crazy at home.
Yeah.
And it takes more planning just to get through, like, getting in the bed.
Wow, that's little sleep right there, I'm gonna guess. I feel bad, man. Your wife is a rock star. She's taking all 4, and does she know you're in that underground bunker, which is the coach's office, probably till 10 p.m. tonight?
Yeah, I try to tell her, the doubles week is a tough week. This is, I'm like, I got an interview with these guys, like, and then I'm home. And she's like, all right, sounds good.
Oh, so we're on the clock. We're on the clock now. I do want to thank you for taking time out. I know it's busy. You are, I think we can go over this. You're the only school or the only program that actually is in school for week 1. I know you guys said you start next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Does that starting next Wednesday pose any problem? I know you said you're in your kind of your after school schedule right now, but just the hubbub of like the first day of school and all that other stuff. Does that play at all as far as like refocusing for a week 1 game for you as a coach?
Yeah, we could say it doesn't, but it will.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if they're like having that, I've been there when we've had a week 1 and the kids sleep in till noon, and you're like, all right, got to get them out of bed to watch film.
Right.
It's a different day. Like, so a lot of stuff we talk about is like what a lot of coaches talk about, the uncontrollables and like how you respond to things, like tomorrow for practice, we're getting out, we're doing our wet. We put a bucket of ice water out on the middle of the field for Skelly, and the quarterbacks have to dunk the ball in the ice water and then go. Like, it's a lot of stuff like that where we're having some fun, but it's like, guys, we're going to have to throw a wet ball in the freezing rain at some point. It's 90 degrees, guys. We got to find a way to condition and put through. And then after we condition, let's go do a drive and see how it feels like. So I think a lot of that is left to our seniors, though, and our captains. Hey, how are we going to get together? What are we going to do to refocus? Let's start talking about it now. And then inevitably, when that first series comes and we look like we've just sat in school for a whole day, what's the conversation going to be like on the sideline? Like, okay, so those are, that's also the fun of it too, like that stuff comes up for everybody. Like, everybody's going to have a picture day practice. How is that going to go? Not great. Right. It's not going to go great. But it's just, and again, those are the fun things, like looking at different groups and how they handle stuff. Yeah, it is. I don't know how I don't know how we used to do so many two-a-days, because we did 5 last week, and our whole staff and our kids, we were burned out, man.
Yeah.
I
remember.
And then I look back to the schedule like in 2010, and we had like 17 two-a-days.
Yeah.
This is insane. But.
Yeah.
Hey,
where was the OHSAA then? When I was doing 14 days of two-a-days in the heat.
Yeah, right. 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, we want to thank you again for coming on our show. We're with head coach of the Hudson Explorers, Jeff Gough. Great, best of luck to you today, this season.
Today too.
Today too.
Yeah, getting the girls to bed. Yeah, thank you.
Getting all those girls to bed. Yeah.
You and your wife have been in zone defense since the third one was born, so it's certainly a blessing. So, Coach, you guys will be hosting the Solon Comets Week 1, August 19th. Thank you again, and good luck to you this season. We'll certainly catch up with you, and hopefully some of your players as the season progresses.
Sounds good. I was just talking to my coach, though. It feels like whenever you guys come out to our game, we lose. So we might.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah, that's Coach. I'm gonna go ahead and raise my hand on that.
You might need to pick an away game, please. Like,
you're not the only coach to bring that up. I think the Berea Mid Park Titans don't want me anywhere near their field for the 2022 season, and I think Menor wants me away too. So I'm
so Sean's
making
not
my way
his
out.
House.
Right. I'm just gonna phone in from my house and just check on scores, I guess.
I was at we were at the North Royalton game a few years back when they that you guys took it to them pretty good. So
that's true.
You got that one.
Yeah.
You got that one. I think I followed kickers. I was a kicking coach at Brunswick. I think that was Grant Gagne's senior year that year.
Okay, yeah.
So that was a pleasure.
He's still kicking. He's at John Carroll now.
John Carroll, okay.
Yeah,
he went to Youngstown State first, didn't he?
Yeah, he got injured, and then he ended up at John Carroll, and he's doing great there. And he wants to get into like player personnel, like NFL stuff like that, which is awesome. He's good. Yeah, he's hell of a kicker, man.
I do remember I was at a home game, one of your home games, and I think you won the kick on it was a last second field goal, and I thought it was from pretty far out. Yeah, I think it was Wadsworth. So I at least went to see a win. Maybe it's Sean over here. Where is he?
It's me.
Somewhere over
I'm the cooler. I'm brought in every time. So every time I'm excited about a game, it's either a blowout or, it's a great game, and then I get blamed for being there. The other team lost. So damned if I do, damned if I do not.
You're always invited, but if we don't win, just let's do a Zoom the next day.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Totally fine.
Coach him up there.
Yeah, that's the way it'll work.
Coach, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
As head coach Jeff Gough of the Hudson Explorers joining us after an after school session, and apparently he's got some work to do when he gets home as well. So I want to make sure. Before we let's get everything out of the way here. Make sure you're following us at our YouTube page right now. You're watching us live on YouTube at Sports on Tap. Check out we're on Twitter at SOT Podcast. Check out our website, sportsontappodcast.com. You can email us at sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. Again, we are brought to you by G&G Fitness Equipment, our new sponsor, Ray Felton State Farm Insurance, RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. And GV Art, go to gvart.com. Use the promo code ONTAP10 to get 10% off of your next order. Sean, as the purveyor of all that is the Suburban League, we talked a lot about Hudson, a lot about Highland, and deservedly so. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other teams and some of the other players to look for.
Absolutely. Let's start off first, as we always do alphabetically. Let's start in the American Division. We mentioned Highland, probably one of the top teams coming back this year. We talked about them in depth. A couple things we need to talk about, I want to point out, is a team of Talmadge. Talmadge is returning quarterback Ty Hurst and Wisconsin commit wide receiver Colin Dixon, not to mention a really stout offensive line. And Coach Gibbons mentioned that in his interview, that he looks for Talmadge to be a team that's on the come this year in 2022. I think they have a very, very good opportunity. Another team to look out for is Revere. Now, Revere has had some really up and down last 4 or 5 years, but they have a new coach, Robert Nickel, who came over from St. Vincent St. Mary. He looks to kind of steady this ship and start building a program. All the interviews that I read, courtesy of Cleveland.com and the Akron Beacon Journal, did an interview with Revere coach Robert Nickel, and he is very much understanding that this is the process, but the process has to begin. So look for Revere to take some steps forward this year in the American Division. Another team I look for, I mean, obviously we can talk about the two other teams. I mean, Aurora and Barberton. They don't rebuild, they reload. I look for both of those teams to be in really tough games, but also really, really tough defensive programs. Finally, looking at the American Division, I want to take you down, talk to you about the Copley Indians. Quarterback DeJuan Owens is a junior quarterback, and he looks to take a major step forward for the Indians this year. He kind of split time last year, and he kind of was on the come last year, but look for Copley to be in the mix too. As I said before we had our interviews, the American Division, to me, kind of seems like what the National Division last year was. A lot of teams that have some players that they put it together. We could see some really great games coming out of this. Now, when you look at flipping the page, as I just did, over to the National Division, obviously there's teams like Hudson. We just talked about them. The returning quarterback Jagger Pillay, with what he described when Coach Gough went over the weights of his offensive line and the heights. I remember the Hudson Highland game, and I thought it looked to me like a small college or a major college football game with the amount of these teams and how big these guys are. They grow them big out in Hudson, and guess what? They're going to run the ball. Now, you don't have Aiden Lau anymore, but I really do think they're a situation where they reload instead of rebuild that running back position. But again, we look at also a team like Wadsworth, who had quarterback Luke Fisher, who last year split time, but now is ready to take the reins full time. See where Wadsworth is kind of in that maybe a little bit of a rebuilding stage. Want to see where they come. A lot of opportunity to move up, but really, really impressive with Luke Fisher and how he played when he was at I believe it was. I did not write it down, but I believe he was a transfer into Wadsworth, and he split time last year. I'll double check that. Couple of changes here. Obviously, the Brecksville Broadcast, the Bees have a new coach. Gone is Coach Martin Potter. He is now the head man at Stowe Monroe Falls, and Stowe's an interesting team because they have a new running back, they have a new coach, they have a new quarterback. But they have one thing that they always have to rely on, and that's a solid defense. Every year, Stowe's defense puts up great numbers and stops these big, fast offenses from scoring points. It's really going to be impressive. I'm looking for Stowe to be in games, but maybe as the beginning of the season, probably going to be having to find a little bit of offense going forward. Nordonia, the last 24 seasons, they lost 24 seniors to graduation with a great team last year. We talked about Nordonia. They had a deep run into the playoffs. They were senior heavy, but they're looking to make a comeback, and they're going to be relying on linebacker, and I believe he's also running back Logan, and I'm gonna butcher this name, Villagana. I'm sure we'll talk about him multiple weeks going forward. But again, we have teams like North Royalton. They're always a team that kind of we never really know going in each year. Sometimes they're good. Other times they kind of come out of nowhere. We'll see where they come in. And obviously Twinsburg, they got nowhere to go but up from last year. We hope they can kind of get some momentum into the non-conference. But I really look for the American Division to be the most competitive. Not to say that the National Division won't. We just kind of see that cream kind of rise to the top pretty early on in the National Division, and then it's really about seeding. Now, again, with the expanded playoffs, what I failed to ask Coach Gough was he's playing a team that I believe in Solon that they could potentially run into in this now that Solon's in the Division II Region 5. So it's going to be interesting now because they're playing a Solon team that they could run into 10 weeks later. And we talked about this with coaches, and we talked about this specifically in hockey, but I really do believe that mentality of, again, with the expanded playoffs, it takes a little bit of the pressure off of that early week. again, we want to win every game, absolutely. But you want to be playing your best football coming into playoff seasons. When you're a program like Hudson, when you're a program like Aurora or Barberton, if you lose a tough one early on, it's not the end of your season. But if you're rounding into form come week 9 and 10, and now you're going into that playoffs, that's why we saw teams like Nordonia last year out of the National Division make a deep run into the playoffs, where we saw Highland make a deep run into the playoffs, where we saw Aurora go to the playoffs, even though they may have been down a little bit and they were bit by the injury bugs. We saw that. And I think the Suburban League, the story or the line you want to say about the Suburban League, both American and national, is these are teams they're going to start where they start, obviously, but I think they're going to round into form and make deep runs. There's a couple teams that can make a deep run. I think Hudson's one of those. Highland's one of those. Again, depending upon health, depending upon how they can perform. But obviously, there's stalwarts are there. Your Auroras, your Wadsworth, your Stows. I mean, there's going to be teams that we're going to be wondering, what the turnover is going to do for them. But I'm really excited about the 2022 season for the Suburban League, because I think we're going to see a lot of great games and a lot of great performances by these players.
And Sean, as you mentioned, I mean, the teams that play in the Suburban League are very tough, and there are tough outs in the playoffs. When I was in the National Division, still Monroe Falls had lots of success in the playoffs. Hudson had a lot of success in the playoffs. On your side, Aurora, Barberton, Highland, they've all had deep runs in the playoffs. And this league is very tough. Even just getting through your own conference schedule is tough. Let alone when you get to the playoffs. There are not too many teams that are as battle tested as a Suburban League once it gets to playoff time, and it shows with how good they usually perform in the playoffs.
And Coach, and you're right, Ed. And Coach Gough brought up a great opportunity, or a great point, is that now with this expanded playoffs, they can get aggressive. They can go out there and they can look at. I mean, not every team is going to obviously want to schedule a St. Ignatius or St. Ed's, but a team like Hudson certainly wants to see how they stack up in that situation. One, it helps them with computer points, huge if they pull off the win. But number two, it kind of sets the tone. Hey, Hudson, it's not just St. Ignatius, it's not just St. Ed's, it's not just Oban. There are teams out. I mean, obviously, when you look at the stats, it's a bracket system, it's single elimination when you stack up. But these are great programs. These are great public school programs that are doing the work. I mean, Hudson just said they have 125 kids, 9 through 12. I mean, they don't have. I mean, they have juniors. They have 1 or 2 juniors starting on varsity. Their JV is mostly juniors. They have dogs waiting to get in line. They'd like to step up and play varsity football right now. They're foaming at the mouth at Hudson to play football this year. I mean, and that's everywhere. I mean, you could point to. I mean, the bigger schools, especially the National Division, they have great numbers. And even so, in the small school division, Aurora always has great numbers. Barberton fields a great number. These are great programs, and it's a fun conference to follow. Now, again, it may not get a lot of run outside of your Auroras or your Hudsons or things like that, because those are the premier programs in this conference. But I think top to bottom, it's probably one of the most competitive, which is why we cover it here at Sports on Tap. If you want the best, come to us. Come listen to us on Monday nights, break down some of these performances, because that's where you're going to see it. It's not just the Suburban League. We're talking GCC. We're talking Southwest Conference. And guess what next week is, folks? The Great Lakes Conference. And oh, by the way, that's a dog conference too, baby. They got teams all over the place that can run with all the big dogs. So guess what? If you are looking for a place to come on Monday night and get your high school football fix, and you're not hitting that subscribe button, smashing that notification bell, and tuning in on a weekly basis for the best high school sports football coverage in the nation, I don't know what to tell you. I think you're missing out. I think you need to rethink your fandom. And if you can please, parents, coaches, athletic directors, please utilize our email, sportsontap@gmail.com, so that we have the correct pronunciation of names, so you don't see me having to apologize. Also, we love stats here. Ed's a stat guy. He loves stats. You send him stats, he'll make up a nice, pretty presentation. It'll look fantastic. It's going to be great. Give us videos. Rob, he's the man. He's the executive producer of this show. He's the one running this ship. Guess what? He will throw up videos as we're talking about him. But we want you to be interactive with us. Tweet us, Facebook us, Instagram us, email us. Get on our website, sportsontapodcast.com. It's fantastic what we have to do. But it's got to be something it's going to be a special season. I'm really excited to be out there and about. Although I think there's a petition going around. Most coaches don't want to see me, and that's why they don't like to see me at their games, because I really do feel like I'm a curse. So I'm taking a 2-week.
They get nervous with you, I think. You know, once they see it, I mean, you're a presence to be known there.
Well, and so I've decided that I will not go to any games the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Mainly because I'll be at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina on vacation. But I've also decided that I'm also going to do that as a favor to all the coaches in our leagues that we cover. You will not see my happy face going up and down until week 3, and then at that point you're on your own. I can't help you. You gotta do that. I'll give you a 2-week reprieve, but after that, I mean, that's varsity football.
There's a lot of sad fans out there that are going to miss Sean Duffy and me. I'm not sure if the coaches are jumping up and down, pumping their fists.
Oh, and athletic directors are so happy that they don't have to watch me go up and down their field. That's what it is.
But
guys, I'm really excited about the Suburban League. I think it's going to be a fun year, and I can't wait to hear next week about the Great Lakes Conference, because that's a conference that's really just has exploded in the last 2 years. I mean, and it's gone from really a small conference with a couple good teams to like what the Southwestern Conference was in terms of numbers alone. And more of I mean, again, all the conferences we cover, they're meat grinders. Like, the best teams that come out of this, as Ed said, are battle tested. And I think they're not just a tough out, but I think they're a team that a lot of these other teams in the regions and in the state are wondering. I mean, it's no wonder that Northeast Ohio football is I think one of the strongest in the state. And I'll put that up against, and I'm a guy coming from Dayton and Cincinnati, where it was St. X, it was all those other programs down there in Cincinnati and Dayton, and when we got the Northeast Ohio teams, it was just a different level of football. No matter from Division I down to Division probably 4, it was just a different level of football. It was because those teams, there's nothing, you didn't surprise them, and that's what Coach Gough said. He said there's no surprises. We can go back and look and say, hey, we've played a team with huge offensive linemen, or we played a team with a great quarterback that could throw it all over the yard. And there's just preparation there. And I think that's a testament to not only consistency, but I also think it's a testament to how these programs are built in their communities. And it's a very, very good thing for public schools, and again, private schools too. Again, they have their own issues, but we're talking about public schools that retain kids and get them excited to play for the hometown team. And that's pretty awesome. I think that's pretty awesome.
As Sean mentioned, next week we will finish up our preview shows with the Great Lakes Conference. We are still working through the guest situation on that front, but we'll be certainly breaking down the East and the West conferences there, the unique scheduling that they have with their Week 10, teams to look for, players to look for, and we'll certainly talk to some coaches as well. Then after that, it's Week 1, and it's it's go time. After next week's preview show, Week 1 starts that Friday, and then right after, we're getting right into our weekly recaps. We'll have our player of the week. We will have guests. We will have a new ranking system that is something that we're looking forward to. That won't come out until after Week 3. We're going to give ourselves a little bit of room to see what's going on first, instead of trying to be preseason prognosticators. Because quite honestly, we don't have the time, and we're not that smart. Not the data.
Yeah, really, the time issue is really not the issue. We're just not smart enough to do it. I mean, we're gonna put this together with Scotch tape. It's gonna look fantastic.
We're gonna let the numbers speak for themselves through Week 3.
That's true.
And figure.
That's right.
Yes, we will. I will. In a sneak peek of what the criteria will be, wins and losses will be number 1. It won't be. It won't be so much as, could this team beat this team? Because I think that's unrealistic. If you win the games that are on your schedule, you're going to, in our rankings, you're going to be ranked. And because at the end of the day, it's just like whose line is it anyways. It's where, the points don't really matter. But nonetheless, it'll be a fun exercise for us. And we'll give it a go, just like some of the other outlets out there, and we'll see how it turns out. So until then, next week, Great Lake Conference. Join us right here at 8:00 p.m. next Monday night on our YouTube page, Sports on Tap. Make sure you're following us at SOT Podcast on Twitter. Check out our Facebook page and our website, sportsontappodcast.com. Make sure you're emailing us at email us at sportsontappodcast@gmail.com, again, for pronunciations, stats, videos, and the like. For Rob Troutman, Sean Duffy, and Josh Sheffy, who's out there fighting the good fight for you fine folks in Ohio.
The bat signal went up for Josh right in the middle of the show, and he took off.
Yep. So I am Ed Dick. This is Sports on Tap, and we will see you on the other side.